Hey guys, welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Emmy, and I make videos on Paladin supports. So this is future me talking. I'm going to do the intro and the outro. However, the bulk of this video is something that was recorded a few weeks ago, the night before the Season 6 update. It is all still very relevant, and I went by the PTS notes, but I just haven't gotten the chance to edit it since there's been a lot going on in my daily life. So this video is obviously a little late and I've had some time off, but that is okay. I am back. I am thankful for you guys for being so patient with me. And speaking of being so patient with me, I've gotten to interact with you guys a lot more one-on-one because I now have a Discord server. A lot of you guys had asked about me starting a server or if I was planning to, and I really didn't until I had gotten quite a few people asking. I do have experiences with running Discord servers in the past, and I knew how much work that was going to be. So if you are interested in joining so that you can play with people, I know that people in there play with each other quite a lot, and they party up often. It's really fun. I'd really love to have you. So the link is in the description for you to join. I also kind of want to talk about where I'm going with my support series because I did a poll last time and Corvus won. However, now we are into the Season 6 update where we've had that support change I talked about in my Season 6 video. And I would like to wait on doing anyone who hasn't had that change. To me, it's looking like this is going to start coming to other supports as well, and the first four that they let out, Grover, Grok, Fury, and Pip, were really just the testers for this. So since this is really direction that the healing meta is going in, I would like to wait on people who have not had that shift yet. So likely my next champion video will be on Furia or Pip, and I will let you guys know and update you. If you want quicker updates that are not on the community tab, I'm going to be doing a lot more updates in the Discord chat. So if you want to know what's going on with my videos or just chat in general, that's a really good place to get in contact. This video is going to be on old items, going all the way back to closed beta pretty much, and it's very interesting to see how the items have evolved. As always, this video is going to be my opinions, and you might not agree with those opinions. That's okay, and I think that's the wonderful thing about this, is that you might think something is awful where I think it's great. So leave your opinions down in the comments. I'd really love to hear them. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Past Me. So items didn't always used to be in the game. They were introduced more as cards, particularly called burn cards. In closed beta 2022 in April 2016, they introduced a mechanic where you could choose cards that were 1-level cards, when they were referred to at the time as burn cards, which now we see as the item shop. They were taken out in closed beta 33 in September 2016, and it was a completely different system, so I'm kind of break that down and talk about all the cards. It took me a really long time, but I managed to track down what all the cards were, and they are either to the word correct or very, very close to it. So when buying these cards, it looked a little bit something like this. At the time, certain champions sometimes had burn cards that were exclusive to them, so there were certain items other people couldn't buy. So for instance, Master Riding originally was a sky card only. It gave you mounting time reduced and you gained 60% movement speed while mounted, but that was exclusive to sky. Kill to Heal was also exclusive to Cassie, and Life Rip was exclusive to Ruckus. So unless you were playing those characters, those items simply weren't available to you. Later in the burn cards, they did make them universal, but there was also a leveling system. So if you're around for OB64, this type of system may be quite familiar to you, but was ultimately taken out of the game most times that it was introduced. So when burn cards were originally introduced, it made it so that players show their current burn card values. And basically that means how much you've played and leveled up that burn card. So green would be the lowest, then blue, then purple, then gold. So it took time to kind of level up your cards as you went. Now, this is from my understanding. It was kind of confusing and it was very hard to find because even in the changelogs, they were very vague. But from what I understand, it was a level up system that you had higher ranking cards than others, and the more you played, the higher cards you had. Now, just a reminder, when I'm referring to cards here, I'm referring to the burn cards, not your deck cards. It does get a little bit confusing, but follow me. They also added in that when you die, all of your burn cards would be lost upon death. You can purchase at any time. I believe you didn't have to be in the spawn to do so, but it also made it so you could only buy one from each category: defense, utility, healing, and damage. Similar to what we have today, just slightly different wording. So let's go over what each of the cards were. We're going to start in the defense category. We had Haven. Attacks that you receive that deal less than 75% damage are reduced by 25%. So the Haven we know today obviously reduces direct and AoE attacks, but originally, evidently, this was a damage reduction card that just simply reduced any damage under a certain number. But then, on the other hand, you have Blast Shields, which attacks you receive that deal over 500 damage are reduced by 25%. So Blast Shields and Haven were originally not an AoE versus direct attack. They were a damage number card, which is really interesting. I definitely don't think these ideas need to be re-added to the game by any means, but it is interesting. Resilience gave you a flat, reduces the duration of crowd control effects by 40%. Remember, you can't level these up. They're just a one level card. You buy the burn card and that's what you have. So there wasn't any getting resilience 1, 2, and 3. An item that we won't recognize today is Develop. You increase your maximum health by plus 600. Now, the idea for Veteran today definitely came from Develop, but we do not use the symbol anymore, nor do we use the name anymore. The next is Sterilize. Reduce the duration of damage over time effects on you by 25%. I actually think that this is a really, really great card that we should consider adding back in today. With characters like Vora, who have bleeding and crowd control being so abundantly common, yes, resilience helped that, but there's nothing to reduce that damage over time from things like poison or bleeding or those frustrating effects that can kill you once you've already gotten away. So this could be something interesting to reassess if it could go back in the game. And if it did, what would it replace? Then you have Illuminate, which we are very familiar with, but the number is a little high. Increase the range at which you see stealth targets by 50%. To put that into perspective, you can only see 45 units right now. So now we have it as a units measurement. Before it was just 50%, which is an insane radius. I'm not sure what measurements they used back then at the time because they've changed it so much, but that is a much larger radius, assuming it is similar to the units they use now. So out of the defense category, I think the only one that we could consider adding back is probably Sterilize. We have several of these just in different renditions, and I think Sterilize could be something interesting that the dev team could maybe look at again. We move on to the utility category. Master Riding. Increase the speed you travel while mounted by 20%. So today that would be a little bit above level 1 for us, because right now you're at 45% speed buff with a Master Riding 3, so you wouldn't have as much as you would today, but it's not bad by any means. And like I said, originally this was a Sky exclusive card. You couldn't use it unless you were playing her. Equestrian. Reduce the amount of time it takes to get on your mount by 75%. At this time, we do not have the remount system in the game. We are not sure if the dev team is going to end up adding it, but it is on the table for Season 6. We're really not sure about it though. So it reduces the amount of time it takes to mount. Well, since we don't have remounting in the game, it wouldn't be needed, but should it come out in Season 6, which actually releases tomorrow as I'm filming this, it would maybe be beneficial, but I'm really not sure about it since right now in PTS it's an instant mount. It doesn't have a mount time. So I'm really not sure if this would even be necessary to add back. Nimble. Increase movement speed by 25%. So the nimble that we have is 20% at 3. So this is a little bit higher than what we have now, but a flat movement buff is never really a bad thing. Obviously we have it already, so there's no need to add it back. Morale boost. Increase the rate at which you charge your ultimate by 30%. This is the equivalent of Morale Boost 3 that we have now, so again, it's already in the game. No need to add it back at any point. And I think it should definitely stay in the game. Chronos. Reduce the cooldowns of your abilities by 20%. So this is, again, already in the base game still. This is the equivalent of Chronos level 2, and it obviously was a flat rate, so you couldn't go any higher, but it's not bad by any means. Huntsman. When in grass, you gain 30% movement speed, lasts 1 second after leaving grass. So, this is a payload exclusive ability. And now that payload is being added back in, this is absolutely something that could be added. I'm not sure if it would be beneficial in today's games because of the different champions that they've let out over time. I don't want to imagine a Yagoroth coming out of the grass with 30% more movement speed. It just doesn't sound appealing, but it could be interesting if it was reworked a bit. Forethought. You gain 25% more experience. I believe that this is a leveling thing outside of the game. You probably get more like champion experience or account experience. It's not really clear, and I couldn't really find any more on it. Even watching gameplays of these from 2016, it wasn't really clear of what kind of experience it was, but that's okay. We move into the healing category. Cauterize was originally in the healing category, and this is an interesting one. Healing reduction for 100% for 2 seconds. So just no healing allowed for 2 seconds on that person for weapon shots. I'm assuming it was weapon shots at that time, but I can't be sure. So super glad that 100% cauterize is not a thing. 90% is enough. I'm good. Gather. Picking up an HP drop instantly heals you for 300 additional health. So, at the time, you could find HP drops on the ground. Think about Moji whenever she kills somebody with her specific talent. It will drop a little healing nugget for someone to pick up and eat. Well, that was normal in the game. So that's definitely something that was taken and put in Moji's kit many years later, and I think that's super interesting to think about, but I don't think it's really necessary to add back in the game, especially since it's already part of another champion. Life Rip. Gives 25% life rip. Again, this was a Ruckus exclusive card. Unless you're Ruckus, you couldn't pick it, which that's quite a bit of lifesteal, and that sounds like it would definitely hurt. Veteran heals 6% faster out of combat. So originally this card didn't seem to be passive healing, like when you are healing out of combat healing. It is if a healer heals you when you are out of combat, you're going to heal for more at that moment, as well as healing faster. So that was originally what Veteran was, and we're going to get into later what it became and then what it is now. Damage. Bulldozer. Deal 300% more damage to deployables. To put into perspective, we only have 75% more damage at level 3 Bulldozer now. So at 300% more damage, you are one-shotting a barrack turret with pretty much anyone. So this was definitely needed to be reduced, for sure. It made deployables a lot more viable, so Yings, Ios, barracks, just a lot more viable in general because you're not a one-hit kill for those, unless you're getting Bulldozer 3 and you have a high damage character now. Wrecker. Deal 100% more damage to shields. This isn't as ludicrous because Wrecker is at 90% damage whenever you're at level 3 now, but it is still quite high and it is still a really jarring number, so it obviously isn't too big of a jump from what we have already though. Deft Hands. Increase your reload speed by 25%. This is a huge difference to what we have now, since that's only level 1 or 2 for Deft Hands now. Level 3 gives you 75% faster reload, so it is definitely a step down from what we have today. Aggression. Your weapon shots deal 15% more damage. This was super needed to be taken out, and I am really happy that this is not in the game now because this seems like an item that every single person in the game would buy. There's no reason not to. Maybe supports would need to, but even then, why not? So aggression was definitely needed to be taken out. You shouldn't be able to augment your damage with cards or items. So those are all the burn cards. And at a certain point, Evil Mojo decided that the burn card method just wasn't working. And that's when they introduced the item shop. Now, originally there was more than 4 items each category. There were 5, and you could buy 5 or 6 different items depending on the time period. However, at that time, you also could only buy one of each type. So you could buy one defense, one utility, one healing, and one offensive. If you tried to interchange them, it wouldn't. It blacked out that area. So if you wanted Illuminate and Resilience, you can't do that. You need one or the other. So if you're against a Sky, and then you're also against a Stunning champion, well, you're just out of luck then, because you have to pick one or the other. It made your team strategize a little more with items. Today, you are allowed to purchase 4 items from any category. It doesn't matter. So, going into the items that have been changed, taken out, things along those lines. So, Blast Shields. We already saw its first iteration, but when it was added to the item shop instead of burn cards, they made it provide 7% damage reduction to area of effect. This item is now merged with Haven. So, Haven used to have a 7% damage reduction to direct damage only. Several years ago, they merged the 2 of them, and now Haven covers direct and area of effect damage. It has been said by several of the developers on Twitter that the separation will not come back. It is confusing to new players, and it's kind of hard for them to learn what is area of effect, what is direct damage, and I kind of understand that. It was a complicated system. So having what we have today probably is the best way to go. The utility cards have remained largely the same. Like I said, some of them were exclusive to certain champions, like Sky with Master Riding, but whenever they implemented the item shop versus burn cards, the item shop no longer had exclusivity to certain champions. You could buy anything, and there was also no longer a level up system, which they had dropped before they had gotten rid of the burn cards anyway. There was a lot of changing going on in closed beta, so there's no way for me to go over all of those and it'd be 100% accurate for you guys. But from what I understand, there was a lot of changes. Veteran. Heal for an initial 5, 10, and 15% per level of your max health every second when out of combat. It was changed in 2021 to have what we have now. It provides a health bonus, 5.5% each level based on your maximum health. So like I said, similar to that burn card earlier, developed, they took that, but instead of it being a flat rate increase, it is now a percentage increase, which I think could be a little more balanced. A lot of people actually miss the old veteran. I used it very rarely. At the time, Cirrus was a really good person to use it on, but once you got past that, it really wasn't very helpful, and it was probably the most unused item in the game. So it definitely needed that change with how little it was used. I'm not saying that what it is now is perfect, but I think it should probably stay that way unless they have a better idea for it. Rejuvenate. Heal for 500 when you leave combat, and obviously that leveled as you went up. I could not find what it leveled up to originally, so its base, as far as I understand, was 500, but now we know it as something that provides a 10% healing received by any support champions that are healing you. In fact, any healing that you're getting that is not self-healing. So this card should definitely remain the same. It's such a huge counter to the anti-heal system, and it is all around a great item. Sure, it could be buffed or nerfed, whatever you feel, but I still think that the item at its base is a good idea. Cauterize was also added in the item store. It provided a healing reduction effect for 1.5 seconds to only weapon attacks. This is now anti-heal, and in Cauterize it would kind of fluctuate. Most every update they were changing, they were trying to find a good balance, and they kind of never really found that with Cauterize. I think they found that with anti-heal now, but it's definitely not perfect. It's still taking some tweaking and some time, but no system that they're going to introduce is going to be perfect. Provision. It restored 15% of the user's maximum ammo after getting an elimination per rank. This was actually a really fun card, particularly with people like Tyra or Victor or Vivian or Ruckus. Just never stop shooting. Rom, who needs to reload? This was actually a pretty recent card that was taken out and swapped with what we have now. This item has obviously been switched out a lot. It went from aggression to cauterize to provisions to lethality. So we've got a lot of changes in that item ranking category in the offensive, but I think it's been worthwhile because I think the ones that we have now are pretty good. I will lightly touch on Siege Beyond and kind of what it was and how it affected the item store. So Siege Beyond was the Season 5 launch, and it was basically a way for the dev team to test brand new Paladins mechanics that would effectively change the game. The first one that they introduced in testing was the item store, and they called them schisms. So this was Schism 1, the item store. Basically, there were 4 different routes you could go down: defense, utility, healing, and offense. It had dozens and dozens and dozens of items, which I can't get all into right now, but it definitely reduced your playstyle as a player to more of a systematic playstyle instead of a fluid playstyle that could go with what you need to do for that game. So if you missed out on buying resilience earlier, or missed out on buying illuminate, or illuminate is next to an item that you really need, it just didn't allow you to go back and get it. You've missed it, sorry. So it definitely did limit you, and I'm not going to get too deep into it because as I am filming this, it is the night before the Season 6 launch, and we are awaiting our community manager to let us know exactly what happened with the schisms, what happened with Siege Beyond, what's going to change, what isn't going to change. So that's currently what we're waiting on, so I don't have too much comment on that for now until we understand what the dev team is doing moving forward with it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate your time. Leave a comment down below on your opinions on these, if any of these should return, if any of them were ridiculous. I'd really like to hear those. If you'd like to like and subscribe to my channel, that really does help out. We've hit 700 subscribers. That's insane to me. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.